Alright, so like I just did a video earlier today about how how my work has proven the gods are real and that they're planets and that the afterlife, um as it has been taught, as it's taught in the religions, is fiction. um and but anyway, it cut me off, I did too long of a rant against like my phone doesn't let me talk for very long because it has no memory. Uh, so anyway, I'm just gonna do a follow up to get more into the afterlife question because I was talking more. I got more time to talk about the gods last time. Um, so the gods are primarily planets. Like the main gods are tend to be planets. Like Zeus is Jupiter, Thoth is Mercury, Odin is Mercury, um, you know, Thor is also Jupiter. Thor and Zeus are the same god. It's funny, they were in the Thor movie. Thor, well, anyway, no spoilers, but just to say that they act as if Thor and Zeus are separate gods, but it's funny because they were literally the same god and the same planet. Um, Same as Seth, same as Marduk, same as Enlil, same as uh, probably uh, Tlaloc and Chaac in the Mesoamerican tradition. So, this is really easy to prove, for instance, we know all of our names for the planets are the names of the gods. That's it. And our days of the week are named after those. So, you know, Sunday, Moon Day, uh, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Woden, uh, who's Jupe, who's sorry, Mercury. Buddha is also Mercury. Might be the same etymology, Buddha and Woden. Because W's can sometimes become B's. Who knows? Anyway, so that's easy to prove. And I mean, people can argue like, oh, well, the God, like what modern experts claim is that, oh no, the gods aren't really the planets. The planets were just, there was the gods that were just these primitive, you know, fertility gods and storm gods and stuff. And then at some later date, they just assigned planets to, a planet to each god. But this is idiocy because those stories of the gods only make sense in light of those planets. That's why Jupiter is always the storm god because he's the biggest planet and it's a planet of storms. It's like a permanent storm on Jupiter. Um, Mercury is always the fastest god because Mercury is the fastest planet. So to try and claim, I mean, I think it's true that the gods can also be other things, and sometimes, people argue maybe originally they were based on people. Maybe there was an original person named, you know, Odin or something, and then, but certainly the stories about these gods don't make any sense without their identity as planets, at least. They might be other things too, like Plutarch says that they are also, you know, they are kings and asterisms, like planets or stars, and also like elements, like, water or air or something like that. Like Shu is air in Egyptian. Tefnut is like moisture or something. but they're probably also something celestial. And who knows, maybe they were named after some person, or who knows. But all I know is that 100% certain they are planets. It might also be other things, like me. 100% certain I'm a weirdo, right? Like I'm other things too. I'm like, um, I don't know. I'm a person that eats tacos. So that's pretty normal. But I'm still a weirdo. It doesn't change that. These gods are still planets. And so the fact that the planets are real means that the gods are real. And anybody trying to say they're atheists and like, oh no, God, like religion is just a, you know, delusion, are themselves delusional, because all of science comes from religion. All of astronomy is, certainly comes from religion, but pretty much all the sciences were handed down to us by priests. And it's the gods are just, they're just stars and stuff. And it's like people used to know that, so it wasn't a problem. Like people weren't so confused. They're like, oh yeah, the gods in the sky, you see them every night. Nowadays it's like we're so brainwashed that we don't know. um but anyway, I wanted to talk more about the other issue of the afterlife, because arguably as important as proving that the gods are very 100% irrefutably real, and you can see them every single fucking night and day. You can see the sun, you can see the landmass that you're on. Like everything's a god, everything immortal is a god. So to say that the gods don't exist is fucking like, I don't know. I mean, I used to be an atheist, but that's because I was taught that religion is what religionists claim it is, which it's not. Like there are almost no real religionists alive. There's just atheists and superstitions people. I mean, you could say superstition is religion, but it's a considered a sin. Has traditionally was considered a sin, and it's considered a bastardization of religion and a heresy. So anybody pretending that the stories of the gods are literal is sinning against, you know, against the gods, against mankind, against religion. So there are very few real religionists alive that still understand the gods as they truly are, as planets and land masses and stars. But so that's major thing, but also it's arguably as major or more so to like the fact that I've proven that the afterlife isn't real. It's like, like that's not to say there's not an afterlife, but it's to say that it has nothing to do with, or there's no reason to think it has anything to do with anything that any of the religions have taught about it, because what the religions have taught about it is just so clearly fictional. um because the oldest, like a lot of the traditions, they say, scholars tend to say that, like a lot of scholars have said that the Greek and Roman religions, their conception of the underworld was either from ancient Egyptian funerary traditions, or, at least seems to basically follow perfectly in line with them. So, I've studied the Book of Two Ways, which has, one of the oldest maps of the underworld, ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways, 4,000 years old. And so the underworld is actually America. Like I learned that from the Hindus. They still know, a lot of them still know that, because they still practice the same religion they've been practicing for thousands of years. They still have the same written text. There's no other country like that, or religion like that has written, polytheist texts that are have been, constantly maintained to the present. So they still understood that the underworld Patala is America. So, I searched into the other traditions because I knew that the description of the underworld in Egypt and Europe and everywhere else is almost identical to the Hindu one. So if the Hindu underworld is America, then the rest are too. So eventually I found, ancient Egyptian maps of America. And that was like the oldest illustrated book in the world. The Book of Two Ways is it has a map of America, and there's all the gatekeepers. There's like different sections of America, and each section has a gatekeeper. All the gatekeepers are peninsulas or islands. They're anything that obstructs sailing. Like if you're sailing from Siberia to Alaska, down, south to Chile, and then around Argentina, and then north to Greenland. That's how it's set up. So it's set up following that route. So it's a very exact map. I could use it. I mean, it's not every part of it is exact, but I could still use it to sail the world, like to sail through America, you know, very easily. It's like better than a lot of early European maps of the Americas. So like, um, so it's very blatantly obvious that everything, all the spells, it's saying you're supposed to say a spell to each island, and that spell is going to let your soul pass. It's so blatantly obvious that it's not literal, that these are maps for living people to cross the ocean. And it was very convenient to hide it inside a coffin and associate it with death and with the underworld, since the sun dies when it goes west. So they'd say, oh, if we go west across the ocean or east across the ocean, either way, that's like the where the sun is dead and is reborn each night. So therefore it's the land of the afterlife. It's just totally metaphor. It's like, oh yeah, we're just kind of like the sun. It's like that. It's so blatantly not literal. And so, since everything else is based on that, and including the idea of going to heaven, because heaven is in the underworld too. I mean, the sky is everywhere. So each part of it relates to both the earth and the sky, corresponding to each place on the planet. So, like, I'm sorry, like, nobody could like look at that evidence and think that any of these religious afterlife traditions are based on literal afterlife. It's clearly not. Like